My sister begged for money to rent a house, and then turned my parents against me because she wanted more. I shocked everyone with the truth and cut them off. I've always been the one my family could lean on. Maybe it's because I'm the oldest, or maybe it's because I've always been the one who could keep my head above water. Either way, when my younger sister Jessica came to me in tears last year and said she wanted to move out of our parents' house and needed my help, I didn't think twice. She spun a whole story about how she was suffocating at home and just needed some space to figure things out. She claimed that she couldn't deal with our parents' constant hovering and that they didn't understand her dreams. She said she'd finally get a job and take responsibility when she had her own place, but she needed help getting started. I rented her a small apartment, nothing fancy, but decent. I paid the security deposit, covered the first month's rent, and even helped her get some basic furniture so she could get comfortable. I made it clear that this wasn't a long-term arrangement. I'd be helping her out for a few months until she could get on her feet. At first, she seemed grateful. She even said, "I can't believe you're doing this for me. You're the best brother ever." It felt good to help her out, and honestly, I thought this might be the push she needed to get her life together. But after a few months, I started noticing little red flags. She wasn't even trying to get a job. Every time I asked, she'd give me excuses. "Oh, the market's terrible right now." Or, "I've been so stressed, I just needed a break." Meanwhile, I kept paying her rent because she always had some reason why she couldn't cover it yet. The breaking point came in the 4th month. I was hit with an unexpected expense of my own, a car repair that wiped out some of my savings. I told Jessica that I couldn't cover her rent that month and that she needed to figure it out. She freaked out. Suddenly, her gratitude was gone and she was angry. "You're bailing on me," she said. "I can't believe you're leaving me like this." I told her it wasn't permanent, but she needed to step up and take some responsibility. She stormed off and I didn't hear from her for days. I thought maybe that would be the wake-up call she needed. I couldn't have been more wrong. Jessica didn't just disappear for a few days, she went silent for almost 2 weeks. I assumed she was trying to figure things out on her own, maybe even applying for jobs like she'd promised. I gave her space because I thought it was the right thing to do. Then my mother called. "Why are you being so cruel to your sister?" she asked, taking me completely by surprise. I had no idea what she was talking about, so I asked her to explain. Apparently, Jessica had gone to my parents sobbing, saying that I had abandoned her after forcing her into an apartment she couldn't afford. She claimed that I had promised to take care of everything and then abandoned her. "She's your sister, for God's sake," my mother said. "She's struggling, and you're just watching her sink." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jessica had spun the whole situation to make it seem like I'd pressured her to move out and then cruelly cut her off. I tried to explain the truth, that she had begged me for help and that I had supported her for months, but my mom wouldn't have it. "She's barely scraping by," she said. "She's looking for a job, but she's so overwhelmed. How could you just leave her like that?" It didn't take long for my father to chime in. He called me later that night and repeated the same story Jessica had told my mom. "You're supposed to be the responsible one," he said. "If she needed more time, why couldn't you just give it to her?" I was stunned. My sister wasn't just mad at me for cutting off financial help, she was out for blood. She'd painted me as the villain in front of our parents, and they believed her completely. To make matters worse, I found out that Jessica wasn't as overwhelmed as she claimed. Through a mutual friend, I learned that she spent most of her days hanging out with friends and partying. Apparently, she even bragged that she didn't have to worry about rent because her idiot brother was taking care of it. When I confronted her, she didn't even try to deny it. "Maybe if you hadn't stopped helping me, I wouldn't have had to go to them," she said with that smug look. "I had to survive, and you didn't care." It was as if she didn't see a problem with twisting the truth to get our parents on her side. But I wasn't going to let her ruin my reputation with them. That's when I decided to set the record straight. I decided to call a family meeting to clear the air. I figured if we all sat down and talked about it, I could explain everything and show my parents how much I had actually done for Jessica. I naively thought they'd understand once they heard the whole story. The meeting began with tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. My parents sat across from me in their living room, arms crossed, with Jessica sitting smugly between them. She wouldn't even look at me. I began calmly, laying out the facts. I told them how Jessica had begged me to help her move out, how I had rented the apartment and paid for everything for months. I even told them about the car repair that left me unable to pay her rent that 1 month. "And what did she do?" I asked. "Instead of stepping up like she promised, she went out with her friends and partied. She never even looked for work." Jessica gasped theatrically. "That's not true. You're just making things up to make me look bad," she said. "I told you I was trying, but you didn't care. You just wanted to get me out of your life." My mother immediately jumped to her defense. "You're being so harsh. She's your sister." She struggled, and you sat there and watched her fail. I couldn't believe it. I had receipts literally. I pulled out my phone and showed them screenshots of the rent payments I had made, the furniture orders, everything. "Look at this. Does this look like someone who doesn't care? I've been carrying these for months." But my father just shook his head. "It doesn't matter. If you knew she wasn't ready, you shouldn't have kicked her out of the house. You set her up to fail." Jessica wiped away fake tears. "See? He just wants to humiliate me. He doesn't care about the family." I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. It didn't matter what proof I had or how much I'd done for them, my parents had completely bought into their lies. Then Jessica went for the jugular. "You're just mad because you couldn't control me anymore," she said. "That's why you stopped helping, so you could punish me. Admit it." I snapped. "Are you serious? You're the one who begged for help, and when I couldn't keep up, you turned everyone against me. You're not struggling, you're lazy." My mother stood up angrily. "Enough. We're done with this. Jessica's trying her best, and you're just kicking her while she's down. If you can't be a decent brother, then maybe you should stay away until you figure out what family is." I was stunned. My own parents had just completely sided with her, despite all the evidence. I didn't know what to say, so I walked away. But as I walked out the door, I made a decision. If they wanted to believe their lies, then they could deal with the consequences. I was done being their punching bag. After that disaster of a meeting, I decided to take a step back. I stopped returning Jessica's phone calls and ignored my parents' attempts to guilt me into fixing things. I figured if they were so convinced she was the victim, they could handle her drama on their own. It didn't take long for Jessica to see that I was serious. A week after the meeting, I started getting texts from her. At first, they were passive-aggressive. "Thanks for ruining my life. I hope you're happy." Then they became desperate. "I can't pay the rent this month. What am I going to do? Are you really going to let me end up on the street?" I ignored them. I'd already done more than enough, and I wasn't going to enable her anymore. But I guess she underestimated just how done I was, because a few days later, my mom called me angry. "Jessica says she's being evicted," she yelled. "How can you let this happen? She's your sister." I remained calm. "She's an adult, Mom. If she can't afford the apartment, she needs to move out or get a job." "She's been trying," my mother insisted. "You know how tough things are right now." "Has she really?" I asked. "Because the last I heard, she was spending her days hanging out with friends and doing nothing." "Did she tell you that?" My mother hesitated. "She's under a lot of stress," she said, avoiding the question. "Stress?" I snapped. "I've been paying her rent for months. I bought her furniture. I gave her a chance to get on her feet, and she blew it. It's not my problem anymore." But my mother wasn't interested in logic. "You're letting your family down," she said. "You'll regret it." I hung up, angry. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. A week later, I got a call from my aunt, who's never been one to stay out of family drama. She told me that Jessica had moved back in with my parents, and was telling everyone in the family that I was a selfish, heartless brother who had forced her to live alone and then left her homeless. "Are you kidding me?" I said. "She begged me for help. I paid for everything. I even have proof." "Well, maybe you should show it to everyone," my aunt said. "Because she's making you out to be the bad guy, and your parents are eating it up." That's when I decided I'd had enough. If Jessica wanted to play dirty, I could play dirty, but I'd do it with the truth. After my aunt's call, I realized that if I didn't fight back, Jessica's lies would spread unchecked. So I decided to do what I should have done in the first place: show everyone the cold, hard truth. First, I went through my bank statements, collecting every receipt for the rent, the furniture, and even the groceries I'd bought for her in the first few months. I also pulled up all the text messages in which Jessica had begged me for help, thanked me for supporting her, and promised to get a job soon. Then I called a family meeting. It felt like déjà vu when I walked into my parents' living room. They were sitting on the couch with Jessica in the middle, looking smug as ever. My mom gave me a cold look, and my dad didn't even acknowledge me. But this time I was ready. "I'm here to clear my name," I said. "If you still want to believe Jessica after this, that's your choice. But I'm not going to let her destroy my reputation without hearing the truth." Jessica rolled her eyes. "Oh, here we go. The big speech about how you're the victim." I ignored her and started laying everything out. I showed them the rent payments, the texts where she admitted she couldn't handle living at home and begged for my help, and the ones where she thanked me for paying her way. I even pulled up the screenshots my friend had sent me of Jessica bragging about how she didn't need a job because her stupid brother was footing the bill. When I finished, the room was dead quiet. My mom's face was pale, and my dad looked uncomfortable, like he wanted to say something but didn't know what to say. But Jessica? She doubled over. "So what?" she said. "You still left me when I needed you. You can't just expect someone to suddenly be able to take care of everything all by themselves. You set me up to fail." I laughed bitterly. "Set you up to fail? You're 25 years old, Jessica. At some point you have to take responsibility for your own life. I gave you a head start, and you squandered it. That's on you, not me." My mother, to my disbelief, sided with Jessica again. "She's still your sister," she said. "You could have been more patient. Maybe if you hadn't cut her off so suddenly. I held up my hand. "Enough. I've had enough of this. I've been more than patient. I've done more than enough. If you want to keep enabling her, go ahead, but I'm done. Don't call me again unless it's to apologize." With that, I walked out. I didn't slam the door, I didn't yell, I just left. And for the first time in months, I felt free. After I walked out, I cut off all communication. No phone calls, no texts, no family gatherings. I needed space, and honestly, I wasn't sure I ever wanted to talk to them again. But the surprises didn't stop there. A few weeks later, I got a message from someone I wasn't expecting, Jessica's ex-boyfriend, Ryan. We hadn't spoken in years, but he reached out and said he'd heard about the drama through the grapevine. "Look, I don't want to get in the middle of anything," he started, "but I thought you should know something." Apparently, Jessica had pulled the same stunt on him years ago, but on a smaller scale. He told me how she'd manipulated him into paying her rent and bills while they were dating, claiming she was trying to get on her feet. When he finally caught on and confronted her, she'd played the victim, telling their mutual friends that he was controlling and financially abusive. "She's good at getting people to believe her," Ryan said. "I've lost a few friends over it. Sounds like she's doing the same to you now." I couldn't believe it. Jessica had a pattern of using people, and I had walked right into her trap. The worst part was that my parents were enabling her, just as her friends had done in the past. But then came the real shocker. Ryan mentioned that while they were dating, Jessica had been hiding a second bank account. She was depositing money from side gigs, babysitting, selling handmade crafts online while still claiming to be broke. "You might want to check to see if she's doing that again," he said. That lit a fire under me. I had no idea how to confirm it, but the possibility that Jessica wasn't as broke as she claimed made my blood boil. The answer came sooner than I thought. A few days later, my cousin Amanda texted me out of the blue. "Hey, I know you're not talking to Jessica, but you might want to see this," she wrote, attaching a screenshot. It was from Jessica's Instagram, her private Instagram, the one she didn't let most of the family follow. In the photo, Jessica was at a spa with two of her friends, champagne glasses in hand, with the caption, "Self-care day. Life is too short to stress, nail polish sparkles." I stared at the picture in disbelief. She had sobbed to my parents about being broke, claiming she couldn't pay the rent, and here she was splurging on spa days. I knew I shouldn't get involved again, but this was too much. I forwarded the screenshot to my parents with a simple message. "This is the person you're defending." My mom called me almost immediately. "It's not what it looks like," she said, sounding upset. "Maybe somebody else paid for it. You don't know the whole story." "I don't care who paid for it," I said. "She's clearly not fighting like she says she is. She's playing you just like she played me." My father chimed in this time. "You don't understand how hard it is for her. You don't know what she's going through." "No, I do," I snapped. "And it's the same thing she's been going through her whole life, not wanting to take responsibility. She's not fighting, she's manipulating you." They didn't say much more after that, but I knew the conversation had planted seeds of doubt. The real turning point came a week later when I got a call from Jessica's landlord. Apparently, I was still listed as her emergency contact. He informed me that Jessica had moved out without notice and left the apartment in terrible shape. There were holes in the walls, garbage everywhere, and even some furniture missing, the same furniture I had paid for. "She didn't even leave a forwarding address," he said. "Do you know how I can reach her?" I hung up without answering, angry but not surprised. Jessica was running from her problems again, leaving a mess in her wake. At this point, I was done playing nice. I called my parents one last time and laid it all out: the landlord's call, the Instagram post, Ryan's story about her second bank account. "She's not fighting," I said. "She's cheating everyone around her. And if you keep enabling her, you're only going to get hurt too." My mother cried, and my father mumbled something about needing time to process. But I didn't wait for their reaction. I told them I was severing ties for good. No more phone calls, no more guilt trips, no more trying to make me the bad guy. "Let them figure it out for themselves," I said, "because I'm done." I haven't spoken to Jessica or my parents since. Every now and then I hear bits and pieces through family gossip how Jessica burned through their savings after moving back in, how they finally kicked her out when she refused to get a job, how she's couch surfing with friends now. Do I feel bad? Sometimes. But mostly I feel relieved. I've been the scapegoat for too long, and cutting her off was the best decision I ever made. Sometimes family isn't worth the drama. About 6 months after I cut ties with Jessica and my parents, my cousin Amanda contacted me with an update I didn't ask for, but couldn't ignore. "You're not going to believe this," she began. "Jessica has a new boyfriend." I wasn't interested at first, but Amanda was determined to fill me in. Jessica had started dating a man in his mid-50s, a wealthy real estate developer she'd met through one of her spa day friends. Amanda described him as the type who wears tailored suits everywhere, drives a luxury car, and probably has more money than he knows what to do with. And, of course, Jessica had moved in with him. "She's living the life now," Amanda said. "He's got everything covered: rent, bills, shopping sprees. Her mom and dad love it, too. He even took them all on a 2-week vacation to Europe." This part caught my attention. "Wait," I said. "Are you telling me that Jessica takes them on these trips?" "Yep," Amanda confirmed. "She's playing house with this guy, and your parents are soaking it all up. They act like they're one big happy family now. Your mom's been posting pictures from Paris and talking about how proud she is of Jessica for turning her life around." I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. Of course, Jessica had found another way to avoid responsibility. Of course, my parents were all too eager to ride her new boyfriend's coattails. It was so predictable it was almost funny. But here's the thing, I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I didn't even feel the urge to call her out. Instead, I just felt detached. Like it wasn't even my problem anymore, because honestly it wasn't. While they were playing the perfect family, I was building something real for myself. Cutting them off had been the best decision of my life. I'd gotten a promotion at work, started saving for a down payment on a house, and even started dating someone who was genuinely kind and supportive. My life was quieter, simpler, and free of the constant chaos they used to bring. I wasn't jealous of Jessica's new life because I knew how this story would end. She'd probably cling to this guy as long as she could, but eventually the cracks would show. Maybe he'd get tired of funding her lifestyle, or maybe she'd sabotage him like she sabotaged everything else. Either way, it wasn't my concern anymore. Let them have their vacations and their false happiness. I'd finally found something they'd never find, peace. And I wasn't going to give it up for anyone.